Okay, the next handout that we're going to look at deals with the 4 characteristics, and all you have to do is look at these different products and different services and ask yourself how many substitutes, is this a luxury versus a necessity, what percentage of your budget, and how much time do I have to make adjustments to whatever we're talking about. So at the top of Chapter 8 Mastery Worksheet, it says what 3 major factors determine. I've added the 4th one. This is the 4th one. So make sure that you have time to make adjustments, because that's really one of the most important. If we have enough time, we can make something that has an inelastic demand in this moment, and we can take it and we can create substitutes and make adjustments to make something that has an inelastic demand into having an elastic demand. So funeral services, if you think about that, if someone has died, there really are no substitutes for a funeral service. So that tends to have an inelastic demand. When you look at how expensive that is, even if they increase the price, ask yourself, will we still have a funeral service? And it's a little morbid, and I apologize for that. But funeral services have an inelastic demand. They raise the price, we will continue to need those services. Airline tickets for vacation in the country. And a lot of times, more than one of these will apply. For the 2, you just have to know which one of it is, which one of those applies. Excuse me, you just have to know if it's inelastic or elastic. For the 3 and the 4, you have to know which one of the characteristics applies to that. So airline tickets for vacations in the country, there's a few of these that I would accept. I would accept, obviously, a vacation in the country as a luxury. It's not a necessity. And the other thing is, it's a large percentage of your budget. So if it tends to be a large percentage and a luxury, those are pretty elastic in demand. I'm going to skip butter. There's several arguments over this one. I don't want to argue over it, so we're just going to skip that one. Medical care. If you are hurt, if something's wrong with you, obviously you need to go to the doctor, and you're not going to, if you're seriously ill and you do need medical care, you're going to make sure that you go, and you'll worry about how you're going to pay for it later. So if you do need medical care, that tends to be inelastic because it's a necessity, and if you're sick and ill, there's no substitutes for that. Potatoes, there are lots and lots of substitutes for potatoes. So those tend to have an elastic demand. Some people would argue that we always have potatoes if they raise the price of potatoes, because they are such a small percentage of your budget that we will continue to buy it. But it really does tend to have a more elastic demand because there are lots of substitutes for it. Gasoline, this one's fairly straightforward. Few, if any, substitutes if you drive or you need gasoline. It's a necessity. And you really don't have any time to adjust and make your car run on something other than gasoline. So gasoline has a very inelastic demand. Clean water, obviously we value clean water so that we can bathe and we can drink it. So if the taxes go up so we can provide clean water, we will continue to pay that. So clean water is very inelastic. Expensive cars, this is a large percentage of your budget, and it's a luxury, so it's going to tend to have a more elastic demand. Insulin, if you're diabetic, obviously there are no substitutes. It's a necessity. You don't have any time to make adjustments. If you don't have it, you're going to die. So insulin is very inelastic. And then finally, milk. Milk is inelastic. The next page, this one is exercise 20, what is price elasticity of demand? And if you want to read that, you can. It's just going to go over all the things that I've gave you in your notes and all the things that we've gone over. So it's just if you need one more way to read about it and you're not quite sure, take some time and read that. But we're just going to look at the examples at the bottom. And once again, salt, we talked about how salt has a perfectly inelastic demand. It's an extremely small percentage of your budget for as much as you get. And so if they double, triple, quadruple, continue to increase the price, we are going to continue to buy that over a large span of percentage increases. So it tends to have an inelastic demand, and why small percentage of your budget. New car, once again, that's going to be a luxury item, large percentage of your budget, and there are substitutes for brand new cars. So this is going to be very elastic for several of those reasons. Pork chops, lots and lots of substitutes for pork chops. And so That's got a fairly elastic demand just because of substitutes. European vacation trips, it's a luxury, large percentage of your budget. There are other substitutes for a European vacation, so this tends to have a fairly elastic demand. Insulin, and notice how 5 and 6, because insulin for a diabetic is a necessity. They have to have it to live. So it's very inelastic. But number 6 says insulin at one of 4 drugstores in the shopping mall. Because it is a product that it doesn't matter who you get it from, it's exactly the same. If there are 4 different suppliers of the same exact thing in a store, and they lower their price by a penny, everyone will buy it from them. So we've taken something that if you're the only one supplying it, and it's going to have an inelastic demand, once you start making substitutes, it's the same thing, but you have various stores that you can buy it from. If one of them lowers the price, kind of like when you go get gas and there's gas stations on all 4 corners. If one of them lowers their price, if they don't have anything else that they can offer, whether it's a convenience store or you can go in and get food there or something like that. If it's just 4 gas stations and that's the only thing that they supply, if one of them lowers their price by a penny, typically everybody goes there. So we've taken something that is inelastic, and because now we have substitutes on all 4 corners, we've taken it and made it elastic.